I've always looked forward to my day, not because I had to go to school or to college, but because of the time post school or college or post work hours where I would indulge in things I love. I realized I'm trying to chase two rabbits. And there was a voice at the back of my head telling me that I had to choose one, and it's impossible to try and do what I'm doing because I was leading a dual life. It got really hard. No, it definitely hasn't been smooth, but the ups and downs is what has made it interesting. First, I smirked. I'm like, why? Why are you calling us women photographers? We're photographers at the end of the day. Grown around so many strong women, I've noticed how we've broken so many barriers over the years. And it just took me some time to realize that, you know what, this is actually an achievement. Being called a woman photographer, it also is a celebratory factor, the fact that we've broken into a male dominant. I've seen my share of those. I've seen moments where we bring helium balloons to a shoot and then the child lets the helium balloon go even before a photograph is taken, and then there's a meltdown. So we've seen all of those things. But I think the most memorable ones would be the ones that really are heartwarming, where I
Thank you so much for doing this live session with us. And I'm excited talking to you for two reasons. One, of course, from the fact that you're going to inspire a lot of young children to follow their passions instead of conventional careers. The second thing is many, many decades ago, or a couple of decades ago, somewhere I had a passion for photography and I started it off and it kind of died too early. And it's such a pleasure to meet someone, who's done that and who've done incredible work. All right. So that's about it. All right. Okay. So
thanks so
let's
much, Vimal.
Pleasure, Amrita. So, Amrita, let's get started with some questions that we have in mind. You didn't become a success overnight. I'm sure, had seen a lot of difficulties, and that too for a professional. I think you were in the human resources space, if I'm not mistaken. All right. How did this whole journey start for you? How did you decide to, hang your boots one day and straight away jump into a space as unpredictable as photography?
Okay, I love this question because going back in time, I don't get the time to actually go back in time and think about these things. So it's the places like this that allow me to revisit it. I don't think I was very excited about hanging my boots up there and just walking out. I really liked my HR job. I was working with a gaming company and an amazing team. But I think, collectively over the decade before I decided to quit, I noticed a pattern. And this stems from childhood, where I've always looked forward to my day, not because I had to go to school or to college, but because of the time post school or college or post work hours where I would indulge in things I love, mainly the performing arts. So dance, theater, you name it, singing. I can't sing to save my life, but I would try. But that's where the journey began back in my early days, and then it continued through school, through college, through work. And I realized at some point, about a decade into HR, I realized I'm trying to chase two rabbits. And there was a voice at the back of my head telling me that I had to choose one, and it's impossible to try and do what I'm doing because I was leading a dual life. It got really hard. So I think that's what really urged me or encouraged me to take this leap of faith and pursue photography, which is something I stumbled onto, honestly. And I discovered this niche of child and baby photography at that point. However, you're the OG child photographer.
So, how did you pick child photography as a niche? How did that happen for you? Is it because you love spending time with children, or?
Yes. I mean, more or less, I think a lot of people love spending time with children, but I think for me it was deeper than that. My sister had she has twins, and
Nice.
my aunt duties involved taking photographs of them growing up around the house and just them monkeying around. So it sort of struck me as a brainwave when I decided to pursue photography. I was clear I didn't want to do anything related to weddings or anything. I was clear about what I didn't want.
Mm,
And then I think the brainwave struck me that I could actually indulge in doing child photography, which was
mm.
fresh and new in India, and there was a huge market for it. So
Yep.
that just made sense.
Yep. And it's, how did you find the initial days? Was it difficult? And it's a relatively new concept, right? And especially in this world when people feel that I have an iPhone, therefore I'm a photographer, right? How do you battle stereotypes, and has it always been a smooth journey for you?
No, it definitely hasn't been smooth, but the ups and downs is what has made it interesting. The early days, I mean, there were two questions there. The early days were super difficult because For other genres of photography, there are boundaries, there are rules, there's a process as to how
Yeah.
to go about things. But this was so new. I had to learn how to draw boundaries and understand what's possible, what's not, given that we're working with subjects who are as young as like 1 day old to 12 years of age, and their temperaments and mood swings are not controlled. We really go by their day. So it was really hard for me, one, to understand children in the beginning, and second was to draw boundaries around a profession and communicate that vision
Yeah.
and those boundaries to people you work with.
Yeah.
So that was really difficult at that point. And I think through the 7 years I've been doing this, my focus has only been on one thing, which is to keep improving my skill, to just get better at what I do professionally. But I think today, the second part of your question was about, how everybody else is a photographer. So has that been difficult, or how does that change things? I do encourage everyone to actually use their phones and take pictures, because it's a beautiful way to see life and document some amazing memories and moments. And at the same time, I mean, technology has made it really easy for anyone to pick up a camera and actually take pictures. But I think we still remain indispensable as photographers because of our accumulated experience and skill, which is not easily replaced overnight with anyone who owns a camera. So I think that really keeps us, and of course, making sure we don't get complacent and too comfortable as well. So constantly renovating ourselves and our work, and that helps us keep going.
I remember a long time back, I read a quote, asking a photographer what camera he uses is like asking a chef what spatula you use, right? So is that the difficulty that you face in terms of people equating to you as good as only your tools and techniques that or not the techniques, but rather the tools that you use and not your techniques? Is that something you face commonly in your industry?
All the time, all the time. In fact, that was a difficult part of my journey as well, where people just equated the genre I chose to just being maybe maternal instincts, or oh, you love kids, oh, that must be fun, or all kids are cute, so every parent will love their pictures. But it was hard to sort of break out of that. You just have to really have razor sharp focus and keep focusing on what you do best. But yeah, I mean, it's like saying the biryani was great because you used this great pressure cooker, right? It's
Absolutely.
so that's
yeah.
hard to change.
Yeah. So what I hear from you is you've been a lifelong learner. Even if you see this short span of time that you've been in photography, you've been constantly learning, and it's not been an easy journey for you. A lot of our students are in the age group of grade 9 to grade 12. Sometimes they feel things come easy for them. All right. Do you have any advice for young adults who are not sure about what their career is, and even if they want to take a career as YouTubing, or something which seems to be very easy, something that seems to be easy? Do you have any advice for folks who have that kind of a perspective?
For sure. I think for that particular age group, the first thing I'd want to tell them is to be aware of the fact that they have so many options at their disposal to choose a career to suit their whims and fancies, right? Because back in the day, picking out the arts as a profession was really not as easy. There wasn't such a strong foundation, and technology has made it so easy. So I think I'd make them aware of the fact that they are blessed to have so many options. And second, I would tell them to do a lot of research on what they're really interested in. And I'm talking about all-rounded research, speaking to professionals in the field, really going out there, understanding what their day-to-day tasks or our tasks would look like, and can they live a life doing that. So I think once you get a hang of or assessing what that would look like and whether you can sustain it long term, then that may be a good choice for you, provided you have the perseverance and interest to play along with it.
Couple of words: research and spending time with experts. You said, right? So I think a lot of young professionals should have the time to go and do a apprenticeship, or mentor, find a mentor for themselves and start working with them. Lovely.
That would be my third point. That's beautiful. Yes.
Another thing we heard is you have an all-women team. Any specific reasons that you chose to have? Is that information correct? Somebody just told me this.
Okay, so I think when a lot of communities that came up and they tagged us as women photographers, at first I smirked. I'm like, why are you calling us women photographers? We're photographers at the end of the day. But I think over time I've also realized, and this is from actually seeing women around me break so many barriers, and I come from a woman where I have two older sisters and a mom, so the majority of women at home. Having seen and grown around so many strong women, I've noticed how we've broken so many barriers over the years. And it just took me some time to realize that, you know what, this is actually an achievement. Being called a woman photographer, it also is a celebratory factor, the fact that we've broken into a male dominant space and we've
Yeah.
created a space for ourselves. So it should be celebrated. And given that I had faced so many challenges entering a male dominated industry earlier, where my word wasn't taken too seriously, or
Yeah.
you were just sort of muted out being someone who just loved kids, and so you're pursuing a passion or a hobby. So
Yeah.
I think what I really wanted to do was to create opportunity. So I knew that when I was going to scale, I would give more opportunities to
Yeah.
women. Not that I wouldn't hire a man,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I would give more opportunities to women, because I think women deserve the flexibility and the time off. But I do feel that come back and they give you back more when you give them and understand that flexibility they need. So that was really the reason behind an all women's team. But we're, of course, open to having men join us as well. It's just that
Yeah,
I'd like to offer more
yeah,
opportunity.
that's inspiration. In some sense, they talk about the glass ceiling. You're talking about a lens ceiling. You broke the lens ceiling, and in a male-dominated world, we don't hear of women photographers too often, right? So I think it's remarkable what you've done.
I think the
How's it?
scales are
How
tipping. Sorry,
is it?
Vimal.
Go ahead. Please go ahead. Finish
I
your
think
thought,
the
please.
scales are tipping quite a bit today.
Is it? Okay.
We have a lot of women photographers because I
Nice.
have an online photography school, and the number of women
Nice.
enrolling is unbelievable. But I'll let you proceed.
Lovely. No, my question is related to that, right? I mean, how do you see the industry going forward, right? This is, I keep telling my family that I used to have a Nikon D90 or something like that, and the day my wife started using an iPhone, I threw the camera away, right? So how do you really see the industry growing? It becoming is it a lucrative industry for people to get into, or is it very challenging? What's your thoughts on that?
So I think that the industry is definitely challenging, given the fact that we are a huge chunk of population in the photography space. And while there is a huge ocean of photographers out there, I still think that if there's someone out there who wants to pursue photography very passionately, very deeply, and has a lot of interest, is street smart,
Yeah.
can get a hold of understanding even the business side of things,
Yeah.
they can definitely make headway into the field.
Yeah.
So I would not discourage anyone who wants to, because unless you experiment or try, you're never going to know. But having said that, yes, I agree with you. Whenever I go on vacation, I don't carry my DSLR with me. The phone does such a phenomenal job. And I
Yeah.
think that technology is going to continuously improve. However, I don't think that would still replace my DSLR for some time
Absolutely.
at least,
Yeah.
right? Especially for commissioned work. So while it is an uphill climb today to get to the top in this space, I still believe there's enough avenue for more vision,
Okay.
for more unique imagery to be made.
Absolutely. And I guess India as an economy is also moving to a higher income group. There's probably more disposable income, and people are willing to spend on a photo shoot. Right. So,
Absolutely. Yes, I think it's about giving them reason to understand why they're investing money in
right.
a photograph, right? And if you give them good enough reason, you have someone working for you, or working with you rather.
Lovely. Right. Okay. And I think I should appreciate you for doing two things. One, you're inspiring a lot of young people, and you're also spreading gender equality in the industry, which probably wasn't so. Right? Especially in media industry, has always been very patriarchal, and some man on the top decides the future of everyone. So, kudos to what you do. All right.
Thank you.
Any interesting stories? What's your probably most memorable shoot that you had? Did you have a child throw tantrum when your shoot was on?
Oh, well, that's our everyday, right? Dealing with tantrums, dealing with actually, you know what? The fact that now we've understood children better, we barely see any of those tantrums being thrown, or we barely see extreme temperaments of kids, because we know how to work within their stipulated time of energy. But yes, I've seen my share of those. I've seen moments where we bring helium balloons to a shoot, and then the child lets the helium balloon go even before a photograph is taken, and then there's a meltdown. So we've seen all of those things. But I think the most memorable ones would be the ones that really are heartwarming, where a family came to me and they said our child's just beginning to walk, or just has learned to stand, and the child actually took his first steps in the shoot,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was actually documenting it while he walked, and the parents were screaming in excitement. So that was like the most memorable thing for me, because that day it sort of dawned on me that you are part of a very personal and precious journey along with the parents,
Absolutely.
and you have to be absolutely privileged to be there and witness all of that. So I wake up every day feeling blessed about being able to do this.
Absolutely. And I think no amount of money can probably, value that particular shot that you took when a child was walking for the first time. That's really very
That is true.
impressive. We just want to wind up right now. And I know you're a busy person. You want to be conscious of your time. Uh, you know, this is not a profession where you go and prepare by doing a BE in IIT for photography, or you don't do an MBA in photography, right? If a student in his high school today is interested in photography, right? What part? I mean, you did share parts of it already in terms of getting mentor, in terms of researching, but in terms of the profession or academics that they choose, do you have any guidance on what sort of direction should they head into?
Um, I wish I'd really walked down that path of actually studying photography academically, because there would have been so many saved years. But no regrets. HR and business taught me a lot to handle mommy shots better today. But having said that, I think there are so many opportunities for everyone today for Gen Z. I think even if you don't pick up the photography course academically, there is a ton of content on just say YouTube alone or any of these education platforms online to study the subject and get better every day. And I think real getting better will happen when you pick up your camera, go out there, plan a shoot, and execute it. Having said that, no amount of book knowledge will equate to the actual practice you have in the field. So if you have the option or the luxury of studying photography academically or studying film academically, please do it. But nothing will equate to how much practice you put in there. Like they say, right?
Absolutely.
It takes 10,000 hours of
Right.
practice to make you a master at something. That's
Right.
exactly what I would say to anyone who wants to get into the space.
Awesome, Amrita. Just a one-liner on what we do in the space that you've been speaking about. We're trying to work with children from grade 9 onwards. And if the child in grade 9 says, I want to be a photographer, we don't want to tell them that you first do your IIT, go to McKinsey, work, and then decide to buy a camera and do things like that. We tell them at grade 9, it's okay for you to be a photographer, right? And we try and work with professionals like you, get them connected with them and take the advice from experts rather than, reading from the book. And we do this without compromising on the academics. We tell them that you have to have your academics in place. There's not a choice. Not everybody can say, I'm a dropout from school and therefore I'm a photographer, right? I'm sure you did it very well academically and it's a decision you took, right? And
That's
it's not dropping
absolutely.
out. Yeah, good.
Yes, absolutely right. I definitely agree with you. In case I overlook the point, is that I think having your academics in place and making sure you've studied well and not just graduated, but graduated with good
Yeah,
scores is really important. No matter what, I think life can turn in different directions, and you need to be prepared for all of these things. So yes, I would ask them to do it responsibly. So I'm glad you added that
absolutely.
point there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Amrita. I know you're extremely busy. I want to wish you the best
No
for the
problem.
future for Mommy Shots and you. And thank you so much for being on the live session with us. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Vimal. Thanks, Ran. Lovely talking to you. All right.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you for all of you who've been on the live session. If you like the session, do share it with your friends, and we'll be happy to connect with you. All right. Thank you, and
All
have a
right.
good evening. See you. Bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.